What is the LionsGate portal? Why does it happen on 8/8? What is a portal? What does any of this mean? What is going on? Hello, my name is Nicole, and I'm going to break down the LionsGate portal right now. Why LionsGate on 8/8, right? We've really seen in this modern New Age spiritual movement this emphasis on these portal days, and they happen when the month and the day have the same number. So August the 8th, that's coming up this week, right? When it's like 5/5, 6/6, 7/7, 8/8, people put a lot of energy into these portals. And modern numerology is fun. It is a fun way to connect with the divine and to connect with your intuition and divination. 8/8 with the LionsGate portal, I think this is really related to Leo season, which is why we get the name of it. And even if this is a social media spirituality phenomenon, like, is it still useful? I think yes. I think yes, it is. It has helped me, and I will talk about that a bit later on in this video. So what's really going on here, right? So the 8/8 LionsGate portal is linked to the ancient Egyptian New Year that was all about the heliacal rising of Sirius. And at the time in ancient Egypt, the rising of Sirius just before the sun was when the Nile would flood. And when the Nile flooded, that's what created the dark, fertile soil of Kemet. Kemet, which is what ancient Egypt was called back in the day, that's exactly what it means, is dark, fertile soil. And because of that dark, fertile soil, they were able to grow an abundance of crops, a surplus of crops that was then able to fund civilization that they built and really created Egypt as this cradle of civilization. They associated the star Sirius with Sopdet, and they very much revered Sirius. They were tracking it so that they would know when the Nile was going to flood because A, it was important for their agriculture. They based most of their society around when the Nile was going to flood because also, when a bunch of water is going to come in, that's going to significantly impact your day-to-day life and how you're going to move through the space and the land. Sirius is the brightest star in our sky, and if you can catch it when it's on the horizon, it does this like really glittery rainbow effect. You'll literally see the like magenta, cyan, yellow colors like come through. And so it's like a very brilliant star. It makes sense why a lot of our ancient cultures and a lot of our ancient ancestors had a very deep relationship with this star. The heliacal rising of Sirius is something that actually happens at a different time depending on your location on Earth. So here in San Francisco, where I am, I'm at about 38 degrees north. We believe it's going to happen on August the 8th. In Egypt, Giza is at about 30 degrees north, so it would have happened already on August the 1st. So the actual rising of Sirius is very location dependent. In Egypt, they did create the Sothic calendar, which was an entire calendar around the heliacal rising of Sirius. It was so important that they created this calendar. And also it's important to remember that it was so important because it was so practical, right? Like this was an agricultural event. This was like directly linked to everything they needed to continue to survive. So really celebrating the heliacal rising of this star was about as practical of a matter as you could get. In ancient Egypt, they had this idea of as above, so below, where what was happening in the heavens was very much directly connected to what is happening here on Earth. And of course, that would make sense that they would think that when the rising of this particular star was bringing forth the flooding of the Great Nile. Now we come back to today where we have this 8/8 LionsGate portal that also coincides around the same time as the heliacal rising of Sirius. It's like, what is a portal? We've sort of agreed that it's this time of collective energy where when a large mass of people collectively agree on something, we create an energy resonance and we create a frequency that we can all kind of jump into and move through and work with together. I think it's really important to consider, like, where are we channeling that energy or how are we channeling that energy? I think some of us are channeling it with Sirius, some of us are channeling it with 8/8, maybe the Gregorian calendar, some of us are just channeling it in our own lives. And so, like, sure, as we're working with this energy, we can imagine the power of the Nile flooding and we can incorporate that into our own abundance rituals. Or, we can attune to the light of Sirius when it rises in our local area. But, like, how practical are any of those things when we consider ancient Egypt and their deep reverence for this time and this portal, this event, but we also have to consider that that would have felt very much like a portal when the Nile flooded all of a sudden. Like when the land goes from dry to wet, that is a significant shift in your physical world. And so, now as we're making meaning out of this portal day, But we're in this time where there's a lot of backlash against organized religion. There's a lot of inconsistencies with the message of the organized religion and the actions of a lot of organized religions. This idea of 8-8 might actually just be easier to grasp onto for a lot of people because numbers are very familiar, numbers are very friendly, numbers evoke mathematics, they evoke science. Numbers are very practical. And humans really like patterns, right? Numbers are so easy to patternize. It's kind of interesting that we've turned this into this 8-8 portal. You know, in 2019, as I mentioned, I did use this portal. I was like, what is a portal? What does that mean? Like, what's happening? And I just let myself be really open to the idea of like, well, maybe this is a time of intention and prayer. And I decided to quit drinking for a week in 2019 around the LionsGate portal. And that planted the seeds for me to eventually quit drinking for 3 years. And then I completely revolutionized my relationship with alcohol, which at the time was the biggest relationship that I needed to transmute and alchemize so that I could actually create a better life for myself and have better relationships with myself and other people. And that was all seeded by me just showing up to this event with a really open mind and a curiosity and a desire to really drop deep within myself and my own internal system and just see like what wanted to happen, what wanted to come through. So even if this is a social media phenomenon that is just kind of random, that we're all agreeing to agree on, I think there's still a lot of power, and I think that it's still a really potent energy to work with, especially if you feel it. Like, right? Because a lot of us have collectively agreed that this is a really potent time. So if you want to tap into that, then I absolutely recommend that you do. And guess what? For me, it worked. Like, I'm a significantly happier human now than I was back then. In 2025, I think this is a really beautiful opportunity to take a look at our relationship with our heavens above, right? It's a good opportunity to look at our relationship with God, with Creator, with the divine, with the stars. Because now, you know, as much as the ancient Egyptians felt as above, so below, now it almost feels like we're at this point of like, as below, no above. We're so concerned with this material world. Most of us are so disconnected from the agricultural practices of our society and where our food is coming from. Most of us don't even know what constellations are what or what stars are where. And with Western tropical astrology being 2,000 years out of date, like, sure, we're in the 8-8 LionsGate portal, but like the sun is actually in Cancer. We're just so disconnected from what's actually happening in the sky above us. And is that even important? Like, does it matter for us to be connected to the stars? I like it. It's a passion of mine. So I really enjoy being connected to the stars, trying to make it more practical when we now rely on so many tools that can do what the stars used to do for us. I don't actually know. So I'm really curious. Like, let me know what you think. Like, what events could we even track with the stars? Like, what would be an event big enough, like the Nile flooding, that would even warrant us using the sky to track at this point? And do we even care? Like, do you care about tracking the stars or where they are? Or how, like, our relationship is just so different now with the sky, especially with most of us living in cities and being unable to even see a lot of the stars. And then I'm really curious, like, has this video shifted the way that you think about the LionsGate portal? I would really love to know. Please let me know in the comments, and please follow me for more.